I never imagined my own life story could unfold like a film noir plot, full of secrets, lies, and merciless twists. But that's exactly what happened. Today, telling this story in first person, my mouth still goes dry as I relive every detail. It all began on a grey Tuesday morning, typical of autumn. The sky over the city was heavy, threatening rain that never came, and the air carried that damp scent of dried leaves piled in sidewalk corners. I'd already been at the office for 2 hours, as usual, reviewing performance reports with a bitter cup of coffee by my side, my third since waking. At the time, I was a senior analyst at a multinational tech company, living the exhausting routine of someone who exists in airports and hotels. My most recent boarding pass was still in my wallet, and my phone buzzed constantly with notifications of delayed flights and rescheduled meetings. Meanwhile, my wife, Laura, was a full-time homemaker. She took care of the house, the bills, our 4-year-old son, even the plants in the backyard. She kept everything running while I watched the world pass by through an airplane window. It was a fragile balance, but it worked. Or at least I thought it did. Then the email arrived. "Dear sir, please report to the CTO's office at 11 a.m. for discussion of strategic matters. Sincerely, Executive Secretary." The message was dry, no explanations. Ricardo, the Chief Technology Officer, wasn't the type to call meetings without reason, especially not with senior analysts. My stomach tightened. A new project, a problem, a layoff. At 10:55, I stood before the frosted glass door of his office, adjusting my tie and taking a deep breath. Before I could even knock, his voice echoed from inside. "Come in." His tone was calm, almost hypnotic, as if he already knew exactly what I was thinking. The office was spacious, overlooking the city, and impeccably organized, a reflection of Ricardo's meticulous mind. He sat behind his desk, fingers interlaced, eyes fixed on me like a chess player calculating his next move. "Sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I obeyed, feeling the soft leather give under my weight. "You must be wondering why I called you here," he began, leaning forward. "The truth is, I've been observing your work. You're meticulous, resilient, and above all, discreet." I stayed silent, waiting. "We're restructuring the Global Projects Division," he continued, opening a folder and sliding a document toward me. "And I want you to take the manager position." I looked at the paper. The proposed salary was nearly double my current one. Extensive benefits, performance bonuses. "It's a unique opportunity," he added, as if reading my mind. "But there's one condition." He paused dramatically, his dark eyes locked onto mine. "You'll need to travel. Much more. It would be best to keep your personal life as stable as possible." He smiled, a calculated gesture. "It's not wise to mix relationships with constant absences." The message was clear. The company valued results, not excuses. Family would be a liability. "Think it over," he concluded, leaning back in his chair. "But don't take too long to decide." I left the office with my mind racing. The raise would clear our debts, secure our son's future, give Laura the peace of mind she deserved. That night, as Laura slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling in the dark, imagining the flights, the hotels, the endless meetings. "It's for the sake of my career," I thought, closing my eyes. Little did I know, it was only the prelude to a nightmare. The plane shuddered as it hit turbulence, and I gripped the armrests, while the flight attendant announced in 3 languages that we should keep our seatbelts fastened. I looked out the window. We were over the ocean, dark clouds gathering on the horizon. The panel clock read 3:17 a.m., but my body was still on Singapore time, where I'd left the hotel just 8 hours earlier. The trips multiplied like falling dominoes. São Paulo on Monday, New York on Wednesday, Berlin over the weekend, Singapore the following week. My suitcase stayed permanently half-packed in the corner of the bedroom, always stocked with clean clothes Laura had set out, always with empty space for souvenirs I never remembered to buy. At home, Laura had become a force of nature. She woke before dawn to tend to our baby, took our son to school, grocery shopped, dealt with plumbers and electricians, watered the plants that stubbornly wilted without her constant attention. Sometimes, when I managed to call between meetings, I'd hear her breathless juggling tasks. "Honey, sorry, Pedro just spilled juice on the couch and the plumber's at the door. Can I call you back?" Our communication shrank to stolen fragments of daily life. Rushed texts before takeoff. "Don't forget the parent-teacher meeting tomorrow." Delayed video calls. "Daddy, look at the castle I built." Quick emails typed. In airports, the gas bill is due on the 15th. On the rare nights I was home, I collapsed into bed exhausted, my body still moving to the rhythm of time zones, while Laura slept beside me, her face marked by a fatigue that no amount of sleep seemed to cure. When the alarm went off in the morning, I'd often find my side of the bed empty. She'd already gotten up to handle some domestic crisis. My home office had become foreign territory. Sometimes, while searching for a document, I'd open drawers and find Pedro's prescription slips, bills I never knew existed, Laura's reminders, scribbled on colorful post-its. My family's life unfolded in layers I could no longer keep up with. In airports, I'd become a professional. I knew exactly how long each security line would take, which terminals had the best coffee, how to adjust my internal clock during transcontinental flights. But at home I felt like an awkward visitor, always one step behind, always needing to ask where things were kept. I trusted her completely. I sent half my salary directly to her account, left all household decisions in her hands, took pride in her competence when friends remarked how she handled everything. After all, my greatest fear was that my absence would leave her vulnerable, that she'd need me and I wouldn't be there. And yet, as I crisscrossed the world in pressurized cabins, as I accumulated miles and business cards, as my son learned new words I never heard, her vulnerability grew deeper, not the vulnerability of need, but of loneliness, not of incapacity, but of silent abandonment. This vulnerability, I would realize too late, would become my own undoing. The Frankfurt hotel room had that dim, muted lighting typical of overcast autumn days. A light rain tapped against the window. As I reviewed my travel itinerary on the iPad, memorizing the next day's meeting schedule, my phone vibrated on the glass tabletop, a metallic sound echoing through the silent room. The message came from an unknown number, country code +55, just one attached file, no text. My fingers hovered for a fraction of a second before tapping the image that filled the screen. The world stopped. There was Laura, wrapped in Ricardo's arms, at a company social event in Sao Paulo. She wore the navy blue dress I'd given her for our anniversary, the one that accentuated the curve of her shoulders. Her smile held a glow I hadn't seen in months, not since the travel intensified. His hand rested on her waist with intimate familiarity, fingers pressing lightly against the fabric of her dress. A small gesture, nearly imperceptible, but loaded with meaning. "Must be photoshopped," I muttered to the empty room. My hands shook as I zoomed in. Every detail was a stab. The subtle pearl strand her mother had given her, a gift I'd forgotten to compliment the last time she wore it, the way her hair was pinned in that low bun she'd adopted when she began caring for our son, alone Ricardo's. Swiss wristwatch, the same model he flaunted in every meeting. The phone slipped from my hands onto the bed. I took a deep breath, counting to 10, like my therapist had taught me for pre-presentation anxiety. But this time, the numbers brought no relief. By 9 a.m., I was sitting in the day's first meeting, hearing without listening as a German CFO droned about quarterly projections. My pen twirled between fingers while my mind reconstructed every absence, every excuse, every unanswered message. "Do you agree with this analysis, Rodrigo?" I looked up to find 10 pairs of eyes waiting. Absolutely, I answered automatically, forcing a professional smile that ached in my facial muscles. The day passed in a whirlwind of commitments where my body was present, but my mind wandered back to that damning snapshot. At 6 p.m., returning to the hotel, I found a notice at reception. "Dear guest, a package has arrived for you at the front desk." The plain brown envelope bore no return address. Inside a bubble-wrapped USB drive, I plugged it into my laptop with trembling hands. The folder contained 47 files, photos of them at discreet dinners, wine glasses reflecting half-burned candles, covertly filmed videos where hushed voices mingled with restrained laughter, scanned pages from Laura's meeting notebook with coded messages. "Meet me at the usual place, 8 p.m. R. The boys staying at your mother's tomorrow. We have the whole night." Each file was meticulously dated and organized chronologically, a professional dossier. The records began 3 weeks after my first international trip as manager. The final photo stole my breath. Laura and Ricardo in our bed, the embroidered initials from our wedding linens visible in the corner. The metadata date, a Tuesday in August, when I'd been in Shanghai presenting the project that earned me a promotion. I snapped the laptop shut. The once impersonal hotel room now felt like a torture chamber. Every detail, the industrial soap smell, the geometric carpet pattern, the AC's hum, burned into my memory as part of this collapse. Outside, the rain intensified, pounding the window as if demanding entry. I stood motionless, staring at my blurred reflection in the glass, not seeing the successful executive, but the man who'd paid for every rung of his ascent with the most valuable currency. Now I understood the true cost. The pharmacy was in an unfamiliar neighborhood where no one would recognize me. The clerk handed me the HIV test with the same indifference as if he were giving me a pack of aspirin. "Instructions are in the package," he mumbled, without looking up from his phone. In the hotel bathroom, with the test kit on the marble countertop, my hands no longer trembled. Anger had replaced the pain, and now I operated with a coldness that frightened even me. I meticulously followed the steps to fake the result. A drop of cola in the sample area, let it dry for exactly 7 minutes. The 2 red lines appeared like a verdict. I photographed the test against the white hotel towel, adjusting the lighting for maximum clarity. Sent the images to my private email, then erased all traces from my phone. The fake test went into a public trash bin 3 blocks away. When my flight from Singapore landed, torrential rain was pounding São Paulo. Laura greeted me at the door with a mechanical kiss on the cheek, her body stiff like someone following protocol. "We need to talk," I said, dropping my suitcase with a thud. In the kitchen, under the cold LED lights, she sat at the table like a defendant in the dock. When I slid the photo of the positive test across the table, I studied every micro-expression. Her pupils dilating, lips going dry, veins pulsing in her neck. I took a test during my Singapore trip. My voice sounded foreign, even to me. It came back positive. Her body folded like she'd been gut-punched. Silent tears washed away mascara. Streaks I hadn't noticed when I arrived. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Her whisper was barely audible. That's when I realized she wasn't denying the affair. She was accepting that I believed this was her fault. While Laura retreated to the bedroom, I locked myself in the home office. The computer screen illuminated. My face in the dark as I typed the message to Ricardo. "You and your mistress have crossed the line. I have evidence that will destroy you. If you want to avoid scandal, start undoing this farce now." The reply came in under an hour. A terse corporate email scheduling a meeting for tomorrow at 2 p.m. in his private office, room 1404. The professional. Tone grotesquely contrasted with the photos I had stored. That night, lying alone on the living room sofa, I began questioning my own sanity. The images from the USB drive played on loop in my mind, now mixed with scenes from our past, Laura pregnant and choosing our son's name, our first vacation together, the day we bought the house. The elevator to the 14th floor seemed to move slower than usual. In the conference room, Ricardo was already seated at the smoked glass table, his fingers drumming a perfect rhythm. Laura arrived after, avoiding eye contact with both of us. When I projected the images onto the 60-inch screen, the silence grew so thick I could hear the projectors hum. Ricardo studied each photo like an analyst reviewing reports. Then, with a smile that showed me why he'd risen so high, he inserted his own flash drive. The audio recordings were mine, but masterfully edited. I need to stay longer in Shanghai. Yes, the project requires it. Laura will understand. Actually, the farther away, the better. Phrase by phrase, he reconstructed a narrative where I was complicit in my own betrayal. Did you really think a multinational hires anyone without due diligence? His dry laugh cut the air. We've had your behavioral profile since the hiring process. We know you prioritize career above all else. When I left the building, sunlight blinded me momentarily. In the taxi home, the termination email arrived with reduced severance for conduct inconsistent with corporate values. The house felt different when I returned, not just empty but transformed. Laura had taken not only her belongings, but the small traces of our shared life, refrigerator photos, bedside books, even her favorite soap in the bathroom. The note on the kitchen table bore dried tear stains. If I hurt you, forgive me. I can't bear myself anymore. In the following weeks, as my lawyers handled the termination, I faced mirrors reflecting a stranger. At 38, I'd achieved everything 22-year-old me had planned and lost everything that truly mattered. Today, a year later, I rent a smaller apartment near the park where my son plays on weekends. I work as an independent consultant, refusing projects that require long travel. Sometimes when I pass our old house, I see new curtains and wonder what life she's built there. I've learned betrayal doesn't begin with a stolen kiss, but with consented absences. That ambition isn't a vice, until served in lethal doses. And that truth, however painful, remains the only foundation for rebuilding, whether a career or a life. The flash drive with the photos still sits in my safe. Not as a weapon, but as a reminder. All love comes at a price, and mine, unfortunately, was paid in the wrong currency.